Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Greg. Welcome to the channel, greg.thunderwizard.com, for anybody that's interested in getting a Thunder Astrology reading. So today I wanted to talk about some passages I found in this book. I must have bought this back in, I believe it was 1995, when I started doing yoga. I got this book through mail order, no internet back then. But yeah, it's called Yoga Swami Janakananda. But yeah, I started doing yoga back in 1995. And yeah, so recently, I still do it, but I'd say in the last half year, I started doing less and less as far as the programs. I got to the advanced techniques in this book, but whenever they would say, like, do this pose for 5 minutes and do this one for 5 minutes, I started cutting those in half about a half a year ago. I started going like 2.5 minutes. And then I'd say in the past 2 months, I started cutting them down even more to 1 minute, and I started getting, less flexible. So I stopped being able to get into these certain poses. So I started, I broke out this book and I was like, man, I think I got to go back to the drawing board and start over again because I'm feeling really stiff. And, I want to loosen myself up and get back into it. So, yeah, I took out the book and I decided to read the introduction again because it's been 24 years since I read the introduction. And I came across some interesting passages in this book that I don't remember reading so long ago, and I wasn't really aware of in a deep way of the Norse teachings of the Thunder Wizard path. And I was aware of some of them. Just a little bit on a small level. I was aware of them, but I came across this the section where they're introducing yoga to us, and they're talking about how meditation has been practiced by North American Indians in Mexico and Colombia. They found all kinds of evidence in China, and then they mention in Northern Europe the Norse, and they wrote right here. On the Osberg Viking ship in Norway, you will find a bucket with the lotus pose engraved in the handle. And that's something that the Thunder Wizard had talked about, but I thought I had first heard it whenever I first heard him say it last year or sometime or something. But here it is. It's written in here. 24 years ago, I was reading this, and that just tripped me out. Like, oh man, I found this connection to Thunder Wizards, things he's been saying, and they're verified in a book that's 24 years old. And what else I got here? Some other stuff right here that I found. The debate over the power of words and thought, suggestion and mantra is also not an exclusive Eastern phenomenon. In Scandinavia, two sources indicate profound knowledge of these means and the effects they have. In Nordic folk songs, we find the art of runes, sounds that have been known and used in the same way as Indian mantras. In Icelandic, well, that's pretty trippy too. They talk about the runes right there, and how they're very powerful sounds. They are the universal building blocks of the universe, the runes. But they kind of equate them to mantras, which there's a similarity too. There's this power in these words, and they have this connection to the movement of your tongue connects you with the universe in powerful ways. It stimulates the third eye, gets the pineal gland going, and you feel that energy going up and down the spine. And what else here? In the Icelandic Edda manuscript, it says, for example, that Odin was known as Om among the gods. That's something the Thunder Wizard said too, that Om, the seed sound for Odin is Om, but Thunder Wizard pronounced the Om, Ong, the O-N-G. He said that's the original pronunciation of it. And right here it says the word Om means the word Om means sound in ancient Norse, Omer, and in Sanskrit. Even today, in Norwegian dialect, you find the word Om meaning concentrated sound. In the Indian tradition, Om is the symbol of the innermost fundamental sound of vibration. It's often written A-U-M to be closer to how it is pronounced. So even this guy right here doesn't know about the original way to pronounce Om, which is that O-N-G. So when you say that Ong, you put the tip of your tongue on the top of your the roof of your mouth, and that stimulates the third eye, the pineal gland, and the pituitary gland. You get that energy flowing. And it's interesting when you do when you just meditate and you stick the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth and just do some deep breathing like that, you get really you feel that Kundalini energy flowing up and down the spine. If you really want to get it even more powerful, you could put the tip of the tongue all the way to the top of the roof of the mouth, but where it gets softer, the top of the mouth, the soft palate, you put it right there, so you're kind of curled back, but it's the same thing. You're getting that stimulation, and you concentrate on your deep breathing, and it's a powerful way to connect. And yeah, one of the interesting things in here too was about the Hopis, the Hopi Indians of the Americas. So they're a very ancient culture, and they're talking about the chakras right here. And chakra means wheel in Sanskrit. Today, this knowledge reaches us from the yoga tradition. In early times in Europe, chakras were known to the alchemists, in Israel by the Kabbalists, in Egypt by the dervishes, in Greenland and Canada by the Inuits, and in North America by the Hopi nation. The Hopis are said to be one of the oldest unbroken cultures in the world. From their mythology, I have chosen this. So this is a pretty interesting mythology that the Hopis had in relation to the chakras. So it says, Palangawahoya, traveling throughout the world, sounded out his call as he was bidden. All of the vibratory centers along the Earth's axis from pole to pole resounded his call. The Earth trembled. The universe quivered in tune. Thus he made the whole world an instrument of sound, and sound an instrument for carrying messages, resounding praise to the Creator of all. The living body of man and the living body of the earth were constructed in the same way. Through each run an axis, man's axis being the backbone, the vertebral column, which controlled the equilibrium of his movements and his functions. Along this axis were several vibratory centers, which echoed the primordial sound of life throughout the universe, or sounded a warning if anything went wrong. So, that's like intuition, gut feelings. The first of these in man lay at the top of his head. Here, when he was born, was the soft spot, Kopavi, the open door, through which he received his life and communicated with his Creator. Just below it lay the second center. It enabled man to think about his actions and work on this earth. But the more he understood that his work and his actions should conform to the plan of the Creator, the more clearly he understood that the real function was carrying out the plan of the creation. The third center lay in the throat. This primordial sound, as that coming from the vibratory centers of the body of the earth, was attuned to the universal vibration of all creation. New and diverse sounds were given forth by these vocal organs in the forms of speech and song, their secondary function for man on this earth. But as he came to understand its primary function, he used this center to speak and sing praises to the Creator. The fourth center was the heart. It too was a vibrating organ, pulsing with the vibration of life itself. In his heart, man felt the good of life, its sincere purpose. He was of one heart, but there were those who permitted evil feelings to enter. They were said to be of two hearts. The last of man's important center lay under his navel. It was the throne in man of the Creator himself. From it, he directed all the functions of man. So that was from a Hopi mythology. So it's interesting that these different universal spiritual practices come to different cultures throughout the world. These cultures didn't have any connection to each other, but yet they come to these same conclusions about energy, about reality, about how this universe works, how the body experiences the universe, and it's through these energy centers in the body. It basically points out that a lot of these spiritual practices they're not just made up stuff in the mind, conjecture, stuff like that. These are actual spiritual sciences, as the Thunder Wizard says too. They're spiritual sciences. They have it's like mixing chemicals together to create a reaction in a science laboratory. These things work. They help to align the body. They help you to become aware of your life patterns, to become aware of what's the wrong road. If you're on the wrong road, if you're on the right road, you get these gut feelings. That's what it's all about. And yeah, how he's saying the you get all these evil feelings. People let evil feelings into the heart. So the Hopi were aware of these bad vibrations coming from people. I wanted to quote these from the Thunder Wizard's book, The Thunder Wizard Path, where he talks about the Hopi myth. So this is interesting too about the Great Spirit gathered all the peoples of the earth together and told them that he would send them into 4 different directions in order to study and master the 4 elements of nature. Over time, each of these different groups would become the 4 major races: white, black, red, and yellow. The people who went south would become the red people, the Native Americans, and would master the element of earth. So we see that with Native American people, the one race of people that really represent saving the earth, caring for the earth, loving the earth, and spreading that message throughout the world is Native Americans. We see their shamanistic practices, they've spread throughout the whole world. People do practice them who are not even of their culture. So there's that deep connection there. So that's pretty obvious with that one right there. And then the people who went west would master the element of water and become the black race, the Africans. So I remember Thunder Wizard was talking about where the earliest bones of man, I think, were found in Africa in the southeastern area. Something like that, yeah. So the only direction left for the blacks was to go in the west, in the western areas of Africa, but they were there to master the water element. And we see the blacks. Unfortunately, they were oppressed through all this slavery stuff, and they were their cultures were trying. Their cultures were almost eliminated entirely from them. They just all they had left with was their souls, which cannot be destroyed. But the water element, is it's the element that makes its way through everything. It's always going to find a way through everything. It'll find the way to open and get through everything. And we see that in the culture around the world. In the way people dress, the way people talk. It's totally influenced by African culture, and all forms of popular music for I don't know, the last 50, 60 years, maybe 70 years. It's all influenced by African music. From jazz, blues, gospel, the tribal stuff from Africa, all of that stuff. All of it is still today. The most popular forms of music come from African people. The pop music, the hip hop that's going on, all of the rock music, everything is totally comes from Africans. And yeah, you can really see how they mastered that element of water. Where they made their way through everything. Even though people were trying to oppress them, it didn't happen. And let's see, the people who went east would master air, spirit, through the knowledge of breath. They were to become the yellow race, the Asians. And we see that too with the continent of Asia. India is in Asia. We see yoga, meditation, and over in the east with the Chinese, they've mastered qigong and the internal martial arts and tai chi, and all of them, they master the breath work and bringing in that spiritual, that life force energy into the body. If you ever done any kind of practices like that, you'll feel that just how strongly this stuff works. So they've clearly mastered the air and spirit element. And the people who went north would master fire and become the white race, the Europeans. So we see that too with the Europeans. The migration from Africa. Well, the east, they went east. The yellow people, the Asians went east, and the Europeans went north. But yeah, they mastered the fire element. So we see that in our technology. I'm filming on what I'm filming on, our television, all the electricity, all of that is the spark of fire. Automobiles, airplanes, tanks, and we get, they mastered guns and all that. The Asians invented the gunpowder and all that, but the Europeans mastered all of this firepower, and we get to the atom bomb. So unfortunately, they mastered it and used it in these abusive kinds of ways. But it is true though. they mastered that fire element. And so this was interesting. What was I going to say right here about this too? So after being said all that in this Hopi myth, the Great Spirit went on to explain to the people that at the appointed time he would bring all the people of the world together again in order for them to share with each other the knowledge they had learned. And this would stimulate human beings to evolve into the next level of spiritual growth. If, however, the people did not come together and share with each other, that would result in great calamity for the entire earth and all the species on it. So we're at that point in time right now where all of these practices are coming together, especially through the internet. So all of it, we're seeing this slow accumulation going on in the world where people are, they're starting to wake up to these really true spiritual practices that really connect us to the universe, to who we really are. It's happening. It's happening slowly, but it's happening. And yeah, about that Native Americans, they came with a symbol, but yeah, so we see that, and the Hopis too also knew about the Northern Europeans coming over to the Americas. They had a whole prophecy going on with that too, and what that said was the native people knew the northern race was coming to the Americas, and that they would bring with them a symbol of the cross. If they came with a symbol of the cross within a circle, like the medicine wheel, that meant they remembered who they were and that they would share the knowledge of technology with the red people, and it would usher in a time of great prosperity for the world. If, however, the northern man came with a symbol of a cross without the circle, it meant he had forgotten who he was, and he would bring great disasters to the red people and to the whole world and life and all life upon it. So we know that happened, So it's pretty trippy how they had this prophecy. They knew these old prophecies from back in the day about the spreading of the different races, the different colors of the races, and how they would master these different elements, and how the northern people and the element of fire, how they would come over to the red people, and if they didn't have a cross with a circle around it, then they would have forgotten who they were. That means basically they went into disharmony and they started abusing their knowledge of fire, and that happened. So unfortunately that happened, but things are coming together slowly now, where we're starting to get onto a higher level of consciousness nowadays. People are uniting, people are waking up, and these old belief systems are starting to crumble. They're starting to get weak in their foundations because they don't have any real foundations. These true spiritual scientific practices really work, and they last, and you'll feel them in your body when you start practicing any kind of true spiritual practices. You'll connect with the Creator, with the universe, with God, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share. What's going on in the world today, and yeah, if anybody's interested in getting a Thunder Astrology reading, go to greg.thunderwizard.com, and see you guys later. Peace.